Welcome to Conversations. I'm Suresh Kochatar. Why did the violence in Leh happen and who was behind it? For the last 3 days, the violence that rocked the Ladakhi capital has been in the news for the right and the wrong reasons. Now, let's look at why it happened. The key question, and it all depends on which side's narrative you look at, is different. Let's take the protesters' view first. They say that the movement is genuine and grassroots about protecting Ladakh's fragile environment, land, jobs, and culture. Well, there's no dispute on that. I mean, we don't find people from Bihar or UP or Bangladesh coming and settling down in Ladakh as much as they're done in Jammu. Nobody comes there. People come to Ladakh, Leh, and leave after some time. They come for tourism or they come on a visit and then that's it, they go back. Very few people stay back and kind of spoil the culture. This is what happened in Assam when the Bangladesh influx happened and all Assam Students Union and Prafulla Kumar Mahanta and the agreement with Rajiv Gandhi, we know that. Exactly, that should not be disturbed. Ladakh is a very fragile environment. We cannot have, say, pharmaceuticals there. We cannot have big industries there. It's a very fragile environment and needs to be protected. Land, yes. Jobs, 85% is already provided for the locals. And the culture, the Ladakhi culture, which has to be the Buddhism part of it. Because on the other side, in Kargil, you have the Shia Muslims. Now, let us look at, for them, for the protesters, the demand was a 6th schedule protection and statehood. When Article 370 was revoked, no statehood was promised for Ladakh. It was very clear that was only for Jammu and Kashmir, and that too has not been given till now. Ladakh will remain under the Indian government as a union territory. The reason is very simple. The Chinese are sitting next to it, and we needed the Indian government's absolute control on this union territory. 6th schedule. It was created specifically for the Northeast, to protect the tribals of the Northeast, who are under various problems out there, from the Gorkha land agitation to the Bodo land, and you name it. It was created for them. In fact, ridiculously, even Telangana and Andhra Pradesh wanted 6th schedule when the state was split. I mean, one fails to understand how it could be done. Then I had spoken about it extensively a few years ago. 6th schedule, not possible, but some protection under the 6th schedule indirectly can be given. There's no dispute. And the discussion is ongoing. In fact, even when I was there in Ladakh a year ago in Leh to cover the 24 election, the Lok Sabha elections, I did speak to the people. In fact, I went to the same BJP office that was set on fire. I've traveled across, I went to Zanskar, I went to Sangam, I went to all these places to learn what has changed in Leh, Ladakh. And definitely there's been a huge change. So it's all about statehood. No, it's not coming. And if it's about survival and politics, yes, we appreciate that. And the discussion with the union government is ongoing. You cannot put a gun on the head of the union government and say, negotiate now or give a decision now. It doesn't work that way. Mr. Sonam Wangchuk, who in fact has been leading this agitation. I had tweeted against him almost a couple of months ago to show how he was running his fake NGO. And now the government has banned FCRA donations for the same NGO in a set of NGOs that he runs. Anyway, that we'll take it up later. Many locals feel that the government in Delhi has ignored their voice in 2019 and protests are the only way to be heard, which is ridiculous. Because India is not Sri Lanka, India is not Bangladesh, and India is not Nepal. And the people in Ladakh and Leh who rioted on the streets, the goons who rioted, I'm not talking of general janta. General people are very peaceful people. It was the Congress goons who openly threatened to bomb, burn, and even stone the BJP office. It is not. And in a press conference, they said it openly. So obviously, everybody knows who was behind the violence. Now let's look at the government's point of view. The center had suggested that the violence was premeditated and deliberate and not a spontaneous outburst. In fact, this is exactly what even I've been saying. This was in the planning for a long time. Officials accused Sonam Wangchuk and other activists of inciting the youth with provocative references to the Arab Spring and Nepal's Gen Z protest. In fact, Sonam Wangchuk went to Bangladesh, met the Bangladeshi leaders, and he also went to Pakistan for a conference in February. So everywhere this gentleman has been going around, and for somebody who was built up on the image of three idiots as an educationist, as somebody who's a climate activist, crap, this guy is a point blank traitor. That's it. He revels in money. He gets tons of money from abroad, from shady people, and he kind of puts up a front with many left-wing publications and people like Amir Khan who want to show him in great light. Anyway, the less said better about Sonam Wangchuk. In fact, the government of India also points out the alleged financial irregularities in Wangchuk's NGOs, which I just spoke about, claiming that he was protecting personal ventures while fueling unrest. He has a motive. He wants to make money, crores of rupees in his bank accounts, that is legally or illegally there. And imagine what is the money sitting outside the banking system. That is what. Let's also look at the neutral part of it. What is the person who's neither on the government side or the Wangchuk side saying? Their view may lie somewhere in between. They say the frustration is real. The Ladakhis have been demanding safeguards for 5 years. Yes, that's coming. That's been given. Beautiful roads have been built. Employment coming up. I saw a Sadbaton plant there. I saw the ice skating rink there. I saw the football field there. But then these are political rivalries. Because defeat the BJP candidate in Leh in the Lok Sabha election, Congress and the opposition parties teamed up to put up an independent candidate. As a result, the Buddhist BJP candidate lost and the Shia Muslim candidate won. Actually, the people of Leh lost, not with the political rivalries, but they lost their identity. They don't have a representative in parliament who represents their religion. They have somebody who represents the opposite part of it. And this is again a game played by the Congress party. But it's also possible that political rivalries, as I mentioned, activist agendas and outside influence amplified the anger, pushing a peaceful protest into violence. But the violence was deliberate. It was announced in a press conference. The government of India also believes there's a hidden agenda, a personal ambition, politics and foreign funding, all of Wangchuk stuff. But for most Ladakhis, it's also about identity, land and future security, which is kind of being discussed. The violence, in fact, which Ladakh, we saw that 4 protesters were killed, 60 were injured, many police and paramilitary forces also were injured. It started with a lathi charge, tear gas and then firing. In fact, these protesters actually walked out of the same hunger strike camp of Sonam Wangchuk. This Sonam Wangchuk character regularly goes on hunger strikes, either in Leh or in Delhi, all for the sake of publicity. And as I mentioned, his entire activity is backed by the left wing. You go and see the pictures of the people whom he is with. The statements that he makes on his tweet are all leftist or jihadi elements supporting him, directly or indirectly. In fact, this is the first major bloodshed in that region since it was carved out of the Union territory in 2019 after the abrogation of Article 370. Sonam Wangchuk, who has a pattern of going on hunger strikes regularly, was again on a hunger strike on this issue and claimed the violence began after 2 of the fasting youth collapsed and were hospitalized. Come on, he's joking. In fact, he even accused the security forces of firing live rounds after tear gas and baton charges failed to disperse the crowd. So what? You go and burn government property, you go and burn a party's property, then what else do you want the government to do? Sit there? Sit quiet? Sorry, this is not Nepal, as I said before. This is why I said Gen Z, the so-called Gen Z, which is hyped up by Rahul Gandhi. And I'm telling you, Rahul Gandhi is also behind this. Directly or indirectly, he has been inciting this cause. And definitely, under UAPA, this Sonam Wangchuk and his supporters need to be locked up, at least for a few years. This has to be done by the government. I hope the government of India has realized the seriousness of the issue. Of course, the statements made by Congress leaders were very clear. They wanted a Nepali-style violence to happen here. And the government took a tough stand for a change. Tear gas, lathi charge, followed by firing. In fact, the center's call saying that it is premeditated and deliberate was very, very obvious. In fact, the talks with the Ladakhi groups were already scheduled on October 6th and an informal consultation. In fact, this happens with the Home Ministry team. And informal consultations were underway this week. This is allegedly done by some activists to provoke violence as long as the dialogue was open. They wanted this dialogue to stop. And that is why this violence happened. In fact, now Leh Ladakh is under curfew. Some parts of it at least. Police have detained 48 people during early morning searches. Schools and colleges were about to shut for 2 days. 4 bodies which are handed over to families after post-mortem, where most of the injured have been discharged from the hospital. All this violence need not have happened. In fact, meanwhile, the Ministry of Home Affairs has cancelled the FCRA license of Wangchuk's NGO, as I told you, which is called Seknol, citing serious violations of foreign funding. Officials allege and hold the amount that over 1.5 crore rupees in foreign funds were received without clearance. From whom? You don't know, because if once you are an FCRI, you've got to disclose who gave you the money. And large sums of the money were diverted to private firms of Sonam Wangchuk. He and his family run a whole clutch of businesses. He wanted to start a university, which the government said no. He wanted to do something for the Indian army, to build something for them. Government kind of smelt everything, because this guy is basically a Chinese agent. In fact, the CBI and the Income Tax Department are probing this matter now. Political reactions, of course, are coming in. Jammu Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah urged the centre to address the Ladakis' concern. Yeah, the government is doing it, boss. In fact, he made a statement saying, actually, we were supposed to get the statehood. I don't know why Ladakis are protesting. But that, of course, never got the amplification it needed. The Lieutenant Governor of Ladakh, Kavinder Gupta, has blamed outsiders and provocative speeches for the violence. In fact, if you go back and watch the press conference, it's very, very clear, a press conference that was held 3 days ago, that it is very clear that the violence was going to happen. And the entire area was already under heavy security. As the people of Ladakh wait anxiously to see whether the demands will be met after the October 6 talks, the situation is cooling down now. But one thing is for sure, this entire thing was planned, created and executed by the Congress party. And Sonam Wangchuk was only the front of it. There needs to be a deeper inquiry. There needs to be a technical inquiry. There needs to be checking of every WhatsApp message that went out, and to know who was trying out an Arab Spring or a Nepal kind of revolution in India. It will not happen, Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Take it from me. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.